Um, shall we begin?
Yes.
Okay, so hello. I'll just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so hello. So now we're about to start. Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Anushka Tiwari. I'm the host of the event and also a WTM core team member. Today, I'm hosting this event on behalf of the Women Tech Makers, which is the Central India's largest women community. We empower women, and we also conduct sessions based on a lot of based on based on the virtual sessions and also the live sessions for the empowerment of women and everyone else in the tech community. Let me introduce myself. Let me introduce to the WTM ambassadors, Tanya Imroze and Neha Kalbande. Tanya Imroze, who is the WTM ambassador, software engineer at Persistent, and Neha Kalbande, who is the WTM ambassador, software engineer at We Create Problems. WTM or the Women Tech Makers, there is an opportunity page where we people provide opportunities to all the women in tech. This is the QR code. If anyone is willing to join it, please scan the QR code through this and you can join the page. Okay. Just give me a second. Now, let me introduce our speaker of the session, Mr. Nitin Tiwari. Mr. Nitin Tiwari is an associate data scientist at Colgate at Palmolive India Limited. He is a Google developer expert in machine learning. He has an experience working in many domains, including ML, database, data analytics, and cloud. He has built several exciting projects, including a post classifier application that will control the games, built a platform for visual data extraction from database for automating data pipelines in businesses, and much more. He's really passionate about ML and he loves to understand how tech functions. I would surely recommend everyone to check out his LinkedIn profile and connect to him. Moving on to the session, let's begin. Over to you, Nitin sir. Uh, okay, you can share your screen now.
Thank you so much, Anushka, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Hope you are doing well. You can just put in the comments. All right. So let's begin with this session. So my name is Nitin Tiwari. I'll just introduce myself once again. Just give me a second. Okay. Hopefully my screen is visible. Can someone just put in the comments?
Yes, yes, it is visible.
Okay. Thank you. So just a quick intro about myself. Once again, my name is Nitin Tiwari. I'm a data scientist at Colgate Palmolive. I'm also a GD in ML. And this session is all about LLMs, since we have heard about LLMs a lot these days. So let's try to explore them, okay? And to name some of the LLMs that we frequently hear of. So I'll be covering Gemini and Gemma models specifically today. Okay, so we'll be diving deeper into what Gemini and Gemma is, how we can use them for various use cases, okay? And that's pretty much about this session. Okay, that would be the agenda. So yeah, I've been a technical speaker and I've given talks across India and Southeast Asia as well. Last year I had an incredible opportunity to visit two countries, Indonesia and Uzbekistan. So I had delivered tech talks based on TensorFlow, Keras, etc. I'm also a contributor to Google Dev Library. So Google Dev Library is basically, it was an open source project from Google where developers across different parts of the world, contribute in the form of open source projects. So if you just see this Dev Library, then you can, see some of the projects that I've worked on. Those are featured there. I'm also a contributor to Gemma Cookbook. So, in case you're wondering what exactly this Gemma Cookbook is, so as you might have heard about these Gemma models, these are nothing but the open models recently released by Google. Okay, and the cookbook is nothing but, it's a official documentation kind of thing or a resource point of view where you can find a lot of code examples like notebook examples, then applications built with Gemma and various variants of Gemma models. And yeah, so some of my contributions are enlisted there as well. And finally, I love writing blogs on AI and ML. So if you're a frequent reader of, blogs on machine learning or AI, then do check out my Medium handle where I've written some, very interesting blogs that you can find helpful. So quick agenda. What is Gemini? We'll see what is Gemini is. So I don't, know like whether it's still an unknown word for you right now, Gemini, because you might have used this in many uh, of your tasks, right? So if you're a student, I am pretty much sure that you have used this for solving assignments. But just keeping the jokes aside, we'll see the capabilities of what Gemini is. Okay, it's a multimodal language model, and we'll see how we can use that. So that is one thing, and followed by that, we'll also try to understand the architecture of Gemini. So if you're a developer, then it's, very important for us to know what exactly runs behind the scenes, right? It's not a magic. So how do these models work? We'll see that, followed by some hands-on. So we'll not just, go through the theoretical thing, but also we'll see some, live hands-on. We'll be doing something on collab. Okay, we'll be coding. So there are different ways to use these Gemini models. I'll be, taking you through each of this. First is how you can use it on Colab notebooks. So if you're, familiar with Python programming language and Jupyter notebooks, then that is Colab. Then there is another platform called as Google AI Studio where you can freely, experiment with these Gemini and Gemma models. So you don't need to do any kind of coding in that. So if you're just interested in learning what Gemini and Gemma is and what are their capabilities, that is one of the great way to explore these models. And finally, if you're a cloud enthusiast and would like to know how you can use these models on GCP, so Vertex AI is another platform for that. So I'll be going through each of this. So that's about Gemini. We'll also see what are Gemma models and how are these different from Gemini. Okay, we'll be uncovering some of these, followed by some examples. Okay, so that you can have some ideas once you know uh, have some ideas to build around these models. So that will be something that I'll be sharing. And finally, I have some resources for you as well, so that you can get started with your journey in this. So just a quick question to the guys attending. So, what is your experience about AI and ML? Can someone share in the chat? I just want to know whether you're familiar with LLMs and AI so that if we come across any technical terms, then you're well aware of that. So, anyone would like to share? Okay. So, we'll start with these language models. So, before we dive deeper into LLMs, there was this term called as NLP. Okay, natural language processing. So if you are already into AI and ML, you will understand what I'm talking about. So the chat GPT, Gemini, all these things that you heard, here recently, it's not a new thing basically. Its foundation was laid back in the year 2016 with the model called as word to vec. So that was the base model, on which these, LLMs are enjoying today's day. So Word2Vec was one of the models from Google. It was basically used to solve NLP problems where, they used to represent the words as vectors in a very high dimensional space. So when we, type something to Gemini or to any other LLM that can we just solve me this question for me, or just can you recommend something, like some good places to visit in Nagpur or something else. So computers generally don't understand all of these languages or words. So what happens is behind the scenes, these the words or the tokens that we are using, it's converted into numbers. Okay. And then a lot of computations happen behind the scene on a high level, and that's how we get the responses. So what 2 was one of the models, the foundation model, uh, released in 2016. But then the year 2017 came. It was the breakthrough year for Google and for everyone else, like every company that is building LLMs right now. So it was based on transformers, and transformers is in fact based on the attention mechanism. So if you read this paper, attention is all you need, you will come to know what was transformers and what are its capabilities. So every LLM that you see from 2018 onwards, and we are in 2024 right now, a lot of companies have released their own models. It was Llama from Meta, then Microsoft had its own models like Phi models, etc. So all these models are somewhere using this transformers architecture, which was laid back in 2017. So each model had its own pros and cons. As the years passed by, they came up with new models. BERT came in 2018, followed by XLNet, then T5. So if you remember, we had something called as BARD, right, from Google. So ChatGPT was released back in November 2022, and then to compete, Google came with this PALM model, Pathways Language Model, and the application or the underlying application for that was called as BARD. So that was the LLM, which used to accept data in the form of like input in the form of text, and you would get an output in the form of text as well. But then in the year 2023, in December, Gemini was released from Google, and that was a really moment of changing, because Gemini could accept input in different formats. It could be a image, it could be a video, it could be anything, it could be a code as well. So that was the difference between all these models and then Gemini. So Gemini was based on this MOEs. MOE is nothing but mixture of experts architecture. So I'll explain what is MOEs. Okay. And it had a lot of capabilities to solve a lot of complex problems. So Gemini 1.0 was the first version. We'll also see some variants of Gemini. Okay. Then in the same year, like in the next year, in fact, that is 2024, within a span of I think 2 or 3 months, they released this Gemini 1.5, which was an enhanced version of Gemini 1.0 with a bigger context, window. So it could support up to 1 million tokens. So when we say 1 million tokens, what is the limitation or what is the capability? It's when we talk about 1 million tokens, it's a huge chunk of data. Okay, so that's the capability of these models. It can remember a lot of data and then answer you accordingly. So that is Gemini 1.5. They also released Gemini Flash models. I'll come to that later in the session. So that's about Gemini. And then Gemma also was released in Feb 2024. That is this year. So Gemma was an open model. If we compare Gemini and Gemma, so to use Gemini, you'll have to pay. Okay, you'll have to subscribe. But Gemma is completely open model, and there's a difference between open model and open source model. Okay, so I'm specifically mentioning open model. It's not an open source, it's an open model. And the difference between these is the weights you can use. Okay, you can't modify the existing model. You can just take the foundation model and then build or fine tune it according to your own use case. So when someone asks you what is an open model, just be sure that what you're talking about. So yeah, so Gemma was released back in Feb 2024, and then again a lot of variants were released as well at this year's Google I/O. They came up with another vision language model which was open that could support images as well. That was Pali Gemma. I'll come to that as well. So this was the journey of the language models all these years. So in today's day, it's quite simple for us to just put a prompt and get the response, but it was not as easy as it was like as it is today. Okay, when we compare it with 5 years ago. So yeah, so I hope you're clear with the foundation of how this was laid for LLMs. But since we are talking about Gemini and Gemma, let's try to understand what it is. So it's a family of the largest multimodal AI models, which was developed by this Google DeepMind team. Okay, it's trained on a large data set of text, code, images, videos, audios, etc. So that means that you can play along with any of this input data set, okay, or input data. It doesn't matter whether you're working with code or whether you want to understand something from an image. it works with all of these type of data. So it's available in all these variants, Gemini Ultra. So if you're, let's say, working from a research point of view, if you want to, build something that is research oriented and requires a lot of accuracy, okay, so Gemini Ultra 1.0 is preferred. Okay, it's available through this Gemini Advanced subscription, so you can avail this model through this. But the most commonly used model these days is Gemini Pro 1.5, and it can literally solve any use case that we encounter in the day-to-day lives. Okay, so its capabilities, it supports up to 2 million token context window. Okay, and it's available in Vertex AI as well as Google AI Studio. So when I say 2 million, we'll see what amount of data it can handle. Then at Google I/O 2024 in this year, that is in the month of May, they announced this Gemini Flash 1.5. It's a lighter weight model as compared to Pro, and its capabilities, it can handle 1 billion token context window. Again, it was available in public preview, but I think it's now freely available to everyone. Uh, okay, and the last one is Gemini Nano. So if you are working on use cases where you don't want to communicate through APIs, okay, you want to keep your data private to yourself, so the Gemini Nano is the lightweight or the most efficient model preferred for such use cases. Okay, so these models are deployed directly on your mobile phones. So that means you are not communicating with the outside world. You are not sending your data anywhere else. Whatever prompt, whatever data you are giving to the model, it stays within your mobile phones. And just imagine, see, so this model is so much lightweight that it can support on devices as small as your mobile phones as well. So when we say large language models, these models, generally require a lot of GPU capabilities and power. So to run these models, we need laptops, but Gemini Nano is capable of running on these mobile phones as well. So currently, it's in limited preview. You can avail a preview for this by registering, and it's supported on Pixel 8 Pro as well as Samsung Galaxy S24 mobile phones right now. So let's see if they expand this to other brands as well. But yeah. So today's focus will be mostly on Gemini Pro, Gemini Flash, as well as some Gemma models. We're not going into Nano and Ultra today. All right. So it's not magic, of course. There is a reason behind all these things happening. So let me give you an example. This is the basic or the higher level architecture of Gemini. Since I'm not a developer in the Google DeepMind team, I can't tell the exact architecture, but that's how MOEs work. Okay, so let's say you have an input. The first example that you see, suggest me some best places to visit in India. It's purely a text, right? So we are providing this text to the encoder. Okay, what the encoder will do, it will convert the input into a common format that the decoder can understand. Okay, and then finally we'll get an output. So the MO is a bridge between encoder and decoder. Okay, so yeah, so the decoder, what it does is, based on the encoded information, whatever you have given as an input, okay, it will decode it and give the output to you accordingly. So if it's a text, you will get a text as a response. If it was a code, okay, so let's say in the second example that you see, def model complete the code. Okay, I've provided a chunk of code to the Gemini model, and I've asked it to write the complete the code for me. What would be the next lines of code in this particular function or this particular method? Okay, so it understands what input I have given, what variables I've used, what for loops or whatever syntax I've used. It will first understand what language I'm asking for, whether it is a Python language or it's JavaScript. Okay, so I'm not specifically or explicitly typing that the output is expected in this particular language. It will automatically understand from the given input. Okay, so that's how the decoder works. And then finally, to bridge between encoder and decoder, we have MOEs. Okay, so MOEs are nothing but, as you see, as my input changes from a text to a code to an image as well, it will automatically activate a particular neural network in the entire architecture of the model, and then it will pass out into the decoder and then give you the desired results. Okay, so that's how MOEs work on a very high level, but in practical it's quite complex than what I've tried to explain here. So if you're just a beginner, this is how it works. You can also go ahead and read the paper if you're interested in learning deep about this. So let's proceed. So these are the benchmarks of Gemini 1.5. Okay, so I was talking that it can support 1 million token, 2 million token, and so on. So let's gauge these numbers into the data. Okay, so when I talk about 1 million tokens, it's almost videos up to 1 hour. So that means you are providing a video of 1 hour to the model and then asking, hey, can you tell me what is happening at this particular point of time in this video? Or can you tell me what movie I'm seeing? Okay, so this is a clip from Harry Potter movie, right? So that's one thing. And it can support audios up to 11 hours. Okay, so that's the capability of these models. And let's say you're a working professional and you want to, write a piece of code, or many times we are asked to maintain documentation of the codes that we write. So instead of going through all those manual hassles writing it yourself, sometimes we have to deal with some legacy codes as well. Okay, some spaghetti codes that someone else has written 10 years ago, and we are really not sure about what this piece of code works. So in that case as well, Gemini works very well. I've tried it myself. And some evaluations. So the DeepMind team did some research, and they did a test called as needle in a haystack evaluation. So in which they found that 99% times Gemini Pro 1.5 was able to find a very small piece of text within you know the code or within the data that they had provided out of 1 million tokens. So these are the capabilities of this model. Okay, if you would like to learn more about the technical details, then just go ahead and check out this link. So let's get started without wasting any further time. So we'll do some hands-on today with Collab first. Okay, so just follow me along. If you have a Google account, then okay, we have some questions as well. What are the risks of Gemini being used to generate misinformation or deep fakes? So Gemini is not a diffuser model. When I say diffuser, it's kind of a model which generates text to image. Okay, so Gemini still doesn't have that capability. Yes, sometimes it can hallucinate, that is it can generate misinformation, but there are ways to handle that as well. So when we talk about deepfakes, Gemini is not into that. So Imagen 3 is another model that is coming up from Google. It's still not in India, unfortunately, but that can generate very realistic images. So we have a policy as well, right, for that, to encounter all these uh, scenarios. Okay, just follow me along. You can just type in Google Colab on your browser. You just need a Google account for this, nothing else. Okay, so first step is go to Google AI Studio. So the link to Google AI Studio is aistudio.google.com. Alternatively, you can also type in Google AI Studio. Okay. So as I said, to use Gemini models, we need an API key. It's not an open model; it's a closed model. Okay. So if you're a first-time user, you'll see this screen. Okay. Just click on this Get API key. If you have already used Gemini before, then you don't need to generate another key for yourself. Okay. Yeah. So once you click on this, you will see this Create API key. Next step is to just search for a project. Okay, some GCP projects that you have worked on, or some default project. Just choose anyone, and then a key will be generated against that project. Since I have already generated a key for myself, I won't be doing this step, but you can do it if it's the first time for yourself. And yeah, so you should see a screen something like this. This is the uh, you know the platform generative Google AI Studio. Okay, so if I just go through the UI, the left hand side you will see some libraries or some kind of prompts that you have already saved. Okay, if you want to just see the documentation, or if you want to discuss something on the forum, you can just explore this pane. But we are least interested in this section, we'll just go to this. So here we can choose a variety of Gemini models available to us. Gemini 1.0 Pro was the very first model. Then they came up with 1.5 Pro, 1.5 Pro experimental. I don't know what this is, but it's a preview model right now. At Google I/O they released this Gemini 1.5 Flash. And then we have Gemma models as well, so that's a very good thing. Earlier it was just Gemini models. We can also explore these Gemma models. So by default, I think it is Gemini 1.5 Flash. Okay. Then there is this thing called as temperature. So this is used to control how would the output look like. If it is too high or too low, then you will see some very strict responses. Okay. When I say strict, it means that it will try to give as accurate or as serious responses as possible. And similarly, at the other end, if it is the you know if it is at the other end, then you'll see some funny responses or some out of the box responses. So that's how this works. Then you can also play around with this safety settings. So let's say you want to block responses or block prompts which have potentially words which are kind of resemble harassment or hate speech, or if it's a sexually explicit content or dangerous content, then you can also block these. Okay. So if you just remove the filter, then in that case the model will give a response for that. If the filter is given here, like if the bar is completely filled, then in that case the prompts will be like the responses will be blocked from the model. So that is one thing. And you can also see some advanced settings, what would be the output length of the response and so on. So I won't go into this right now. I'll just try to give a simple prompt. uh, okay, just a random thought in my mind. Suggest some cool things to do in Nagpur. So I haven't been to Nagpur before, so let me see. I need more information to suggest cool things to do in Nagpur. What are you interested in? Okay, for example, what places to visit? Okay, so these are some responses from the model. It says that if you would like to visit some historical or cultural places, then these are the sites worth visiting. If you are interested in nature and parks, then these are the sites for temples and religious places, and so on. So quite simple prompt. Okay. Then let's say we want to generate a code. So write me a Python code. I used to struggle with this Fibonacci series in my engineering days. So generate Fibonacci series. You see, so it's quite easy. Just provide a prompt and you'll get the results. Now I was talking about MOEs right before. So as soon as my input changed or my ask changed to the model, it has given me a code now instead of just a normal text. You see, there's a command, there's a completely well defined or well structured code here with all the statements along with an example, along with the explanation as well. So what exactly this function is doing. So I hope, or I just think that you might have used this already in your assignments. So you can also play around with images as well. It's not just about text or codes. You can also use images. So this is about using Gemini on AI Studio. It's quite simple. And one more thing. So let's say you would like to export all of this thing in the form of a code. Okay, so you can also just click on this, get code. Use the preferable language, JavaScript, Python, or Kotlin if you are working on an Android app. Okay. Uh, yeah. So this is the SDK. It creates a boilerplate code for you, right from importing all the libraries to the configuration, like the API key that you have to use. Okay, along with some settings that I was just showing here, the temperature, top P, top K, and so on. Then what kind of model we are using? We are using the Gemini 1.5 Flash. So we can also change this. Okay. Then yeah. So this is a chat session. Okay, so these were the prompts that I had given. So it saves all those in the history. So you can also always go back and then refer to the prompts, and then finally you can export this as a working application. So that's the best thing of this AI Studio. So if you're working on some prototypes that you would like to show in your college, or you would like to show to your clients, then that's the best way to make use of this particular platform. So it's quite easy. You can also work around with images. Let me just show you a quick example. Okay, so that's me. Describe this image. You can also try some more interesting examples, like, okay, so I'll just pick up some random example. Yeah, so this was the response from the model. It says that it shows a man standing with arms crossed in front. So a lot of details, like what kind of shirt I was wearing, a denim shirt over a white t-shirt, yes, smiling at the camera, and so on. So Gemini is able to go in such details that it will you know bring out all the information from the data that you have provided. So let me try another example. So this image I have just downloaded from Google Images. It's basically a car number plate. Okay, so okay, identify the number plate and car make. So it can also do this image to text kind of thing. So that's basically an example of OCR, optical character recognition. So if I just talk about the pre LLM era, okay, so 2 3 years ago, when I was working on computer vision based problems, for example object detection, or image classification, or even OCR, so it was a very big deal. So to train for each of this task, I used to have different type of data set, different kind of model for different tasks. So for an object detection or an image classification model, I used to train a different model. But in this case, it can do all the tasks in just a single model. So it has rightly identified the text from the image, and the car is a Kia car. Okay, so that's how it works. It's pretty good for very common use cases. Now let's jump into the code. Actually, the plan was to go through the code first, but yeah, let's go through the Colab notebooks now. So step one was to generate an API key for yourself. Step two is just go to GitHub and clone this repository. I'll put in the chat. Okay, so if you go to this repositories, then uh, you should find this repo, ML session. So I've already uploaded a Colab notebook for you guys. You can just download this. And for those for whom it is the first time of using Colab, so let me just tell you, this is a Python based Jupyter notebook in cloud. Okay, so without installing Jupyter notebook on your machines, you can just go to Colab. It's freely available and you can use it. So no need to clone the entire repository. You can just download this notebook and upload. Okay, so I've already written the code for you so that we don't have to waste time on this. So just follow me along, or just follow the notebook. Okay, so the first step is to connect to this instance of the notebook file. Once you're connected, you will see a green tick here. All right, so okay, so the first step is to install the generative AI SDK. So without this, we can't access the models. So just you have to click on the cells or execute it one by one. Okay, so once it is executed, the next step is to import the a library called as user data. So user data is nothing but it saves your secret key within Google Colab. So you won't find my API key exposed here. So that's the way to configure this. Since I've already configured, it's not visible, but I'll show you how you do this in Google Colab. So you'll find this key icon here. Okay, this is a secrets section. Just click on this, and here you will see a lot of like the keys that you have already configured. If not, then just click on this add new secret. Okay, just give it a random name. I've already given it as Gemini, so just for your information, just to show you, you can just give it Gemini or Gemini key. Okay, the name doesn't matter. Then remember, that was step one. We had created a key from Google AI Studio. Just go back, copy it. Okay, this was my key, so I'll copy this, paste it here. Okay, and just enable this. So that's how it is. Second step is, if you don't want to do all this stuff, then you can directly copy your API key and just paste it here. So since this is a not very reliable method, that there are some security vulnerabilities, so if you're sharing your screen somewhere, then many times your key gets exposed. So that's why we use this secrets option here. You'll also see I've imported a library called as pill. Pill is Python image library. So since we are working on examples that involve images, so we need this to load the images. Okay, so once the key has been configured, then we just run this cell. So this will list all the available models within this generative AI SDK. So Gemini 1.0 Pro latest, 1.0 Pro, and so on. Pro Vision, the model that you see, this is now deprecated. This was the very first model from Google, okay, when they released Gemini. So there was Gemini and Gemini Pro Vision. So the difference was Gemini Pro was just supporting the text to text kind of, uh, prompts. But Gemini Pro Vision, as the name suggests, vision, it also had the support for images and videos. But now this has been deprecated, and they have moved on to Gemini 1.5 Pro, which supports both text as well as images. Okay, so you can just run this to get an idea of what were the models that they have built over the past few months. This is particularly for fine tuning, okay, on your specific use cases. And they are doing a lot of experiments as well, so you will find some exp keyword as well in the model. So we are not interested in all of these models. We'll just explore few of these. So okay, so Gemini Pro was the model. I won't use this. Let me try Gemini 1.5 Flash. Okay, so the most difficult task is to think of a prompt. Okay, so I don't know, like write me a code to train an ML model for image classification. So let me put two scenarios in front of you. We are in the Gen AI era right now, so that's why this task will be very easy for me. But if I go back to the year 2020, 2021, the training the model for image classification was a very big deal for us. So let's see. You would have to collect the data set, label them, and then write the neural network architecture using Keras. So that was a very complex thing, and due to limited resources, it was not a very easy task. So I've just given a simple prompt, write me a code to train an ML model. I haven't specified whether I need to use Python or any language. Okay, so let's see if it is quite intelligent enough to understand what kind of programming language code I'm expecting. So once it is run, you will see a green tick, but the response is not yet shown. So you have to just run this cell, that is response.text. It has given me all the details. So right from importing the libraries like TensorFlow, Keras, and so on, to defining the path for training and validation set, and so on. So you see, just in a single line of prompt, I've got all the information that is needed. So I can just copy and paste this code in my own use case or in my task that I'm working on. And if needed, I can just tweak the code as per my own need, and I've saved a lot of time behind this. So that's the beauty of these models right now. Okay, these days you can also try to give a prompt of your own interest. Okay, this was just an example. So just try to play around with this. uh, if I go down, you will see something called as response.candidates. So what is its significance, we'll see. So if you just run this particular cell, you will find some metadata of the response. So that's nothing but what kind of things it had gone through. Okay, so the code that you see, it has been generated by taking a reference or by taking a look at all these sources available on the internet. So it got some code from this particular medium blog. Okay, so it's all about using mobile net. Okay, it's an image classification model. Then some of the code was picked up from this github.com. Someone had worked on this classification problem, and so on. So you also get some more information like the citation sources, along with whether the prompt that had given, whether it had any safety concerns. So whether it was sexually explicit, no, it was negligible. There was nothing wrong in my prompt. So all of these are negligible. But if I try to give something, uh, I don't know if I'll be jailed for this, but let's see. How to create a bomb. So this is just for an experiment. Okay, I'm not intending to do anything of this sort. You see, it has blocked. I understand you're asking me how to create. I cannot provide information on that topic. Okay, pretty cool. That was I was expecting. Response again. This is what they have given. Okay, instead of seeking information about creating, I encourage you to seek help if you're feeling angry, frustrated, or violent. No, I'm not feeling any of these, but just to show you how these models work. So someone had asked whether some information is misgenerated, or if someone misuses these models. So that's how they apply filters. Okay, to counter all these prompts. Okay, let me just give another prompt that was just a joke, so that they don't put FBI behind me. And yeah, cool. So that was about the Gemini Flash model. Okay, you can also play around with 1.5 Pro. 1.5 Pro, so, has a capability of 2 million tokens, so it can handle a lot of bigger data as well. It can also support PDF as well as videos. Okay, then let's move on to the next model. Okay, or next kind of data. So in this case, as I had said before, we have to import this library. Okay, Python image library, PIL, because we are also working with images along with the text. So I hope everyone has played this game in their childhood. This is a picture of GTA Vice City. Okay, but you can just feel free to choose any image of your choice. This is not saved yet on my Google Drive. Okay, so I'll have to download this first. If I run this, I'll get an error. Right, so first step is to load an image. It can be any image. Okay, you can just feel free to download any image or any image that you have on your computer. Let me just choose this one. So just give the path to the image. It's download.png. So make sure the image name you are providing it's the same as you have uploaded here. Okay, otherwise it will give you an error, file not found. Okay, and again you can just give a prompt. So along with the image we have to give the prompt as usual. So if you see the parameters have changed, you'll see a a list of the input. It's not just prompt anymore. Okay, it's not just prompt anymore, it's a prompt along with the image and stream equal to true. So what is the significance of this parameter? So when we say stream equal to true, if the response is very huge, okay, so what they do is they break down the response into several chunks, and then they give the response in those chunks like one by one. So instead of you waiting for the entire response to come, they divide this into several chunks and then they stream that response. So that's the significance of this. So since this is not a very huge response, it doesn't matter in this case. But if you're working with a code, okay, if you're providing a code or the code base to the model, let's say 10,000 or 20,000 lines of code, and then asking it to comment a particular line of line of code, or just create a documentation out of it. So in that case, the response will be even bigger than the input that you had given. So that's why we use this stream, and that's the model response. The image shows a man in a green shirt, jeans, and a green so and so. The most important thing is it has understood that this is a GTA Vice City image. Okay, and wow, it has also detected the license plate. So I didn't ask for this information. The simple thing that I had asked the model was describe this image, but without specifying anything like that, it has also given me this additional information. So that's the beauty of this model. Okay, it can go into those details and give out the responses as needed. So feel free to play around with this. If you are interested in using a video, you can also do that. So I think for that you'll have to write a script. But if you would like to quickly test it out, then you can also just dump in a video or a PDF file and ask questions based on that. So that's how you can use Gemini models here. We have already covered these two things. If you have any queries or questions, then please let me know. Okay. Next is if you frequently work with GCP and Google Cloud Platform. So there's this thing called as Vertex AI. Okay, so you can also try it out on Vertex AI. So if you have a Google Cloud account with you, then just go to console.cloud.google.com, or just type in Vertex AI on the browser, just like I did, and you will see some options here, either at the left hand side, or you can also type in Vertex AI. Okay, so Vertex AI, I'll just give you a brief of what is this. So it's a platform for ML developers or ML engineers who work on cloud. Okay, so at this particular place you'll find all the things that you need. If you go to Model Garden, it's basically a collection of all the models, okay, available. Whether you are interested in using Gemini model or the image gen model that I was talking about, when someone asked me, yeah, so when someone asked me whether it can detect deep fakes, so it's a kind of text to image kind of thing. So image gen 3 is used for that. Okay, it's still not available in India, unfortunately, but once it is up, then you can try it out. The Gemma 2 is an open model. Llama 3 1.5 was latest model from Meta. It's again an open model. When I say open, you can freely use it without need to subscribe to it. Okay, and yeah, we have some other models as well to explore. So I'll not go into this right now. I'll just click on Gemini. Okay, so you will see some options like whether you want to try it out on Vertex AI Studio. So similar to Google AI Studio, there is something called as Vertex AI Studio where you can play around with this without the need of coding. But if you are more of a developer or a coder, would like to, do things right from scratch, you just click on this, open notebook or view code. So I won't go into this right now. I'll just go to this, open in Vertex AI Studio. So similar to what it was in Google AI Studio, you'll get an interface like this, okay, with some examples, okay, and some place for you to write the prompt and insert the files. So yeah, you can choose the models, okay, Gemini 1.5 Flash, 1.5 Pro, or experimental. I don't know what this is used for right now, but this was the latest model, I guess. Last updated was 16th July. So just pick up an example. Let's say we want to classify something. Let me just pick up a PDF right now. So we have worked with images and text. Take some time, okay. I'm just trying to find a PDF, okay. So yeah, okay, it's not working. So yeah, the motive was just to show you what kind of data it supports. Unfortunately, very slow internet today, so just trying to download this. But you have something already on your computer, then just feel free to try that. Okay, it's my resume. Let me try this. I was just looking for a PDF which had images as well as text, so that it becomes complicated for the model as well to understand. Let me just download this. Okay. Meanwhile, we'll see some examples already here. Okay, you can also click on this, so you'll have a pre-loaded PDF. I just wanted to upload my own data, okay, but yeah, let's see. So this is the pre-given example or predefined example in this Vertex AI Studio. It's kind of form, I guess, with some instructions. This seems like a pretty simple, okay, example. I wanted to give a PDF which had a lot of information. So finally, it has downloaded. We have something sort of a textbook for students of class 4. It's a history textbook based on the life of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Okay, and we have some images as well along with some tables, some text. Okay, let me just try this example. Unable to add because it is too large. Okay, bad luck, but yeah. You can just take this example which is already given, or if you have a PDF which is smaller in size, then that will also work. So let me ask questions based on this. So it's kind of a form for a taxpayer with some information needed to be filled in, like the TIN number, taxpayer and identification number, and so on. Part two is kind of certification. So let me just ask it. Let me change this prompt. Okay, what kind of document is it? What does part one say? And okay, so this is specifically for US citizens. So let me ask it, and is it applicable for Indians? Okay, just a random prompt. But we have something with sort of like, images as well, then feel free to provide that as an input. Response. Okay, it's pretty straightforward information with the response from the model that it's a tax form. What does part one say? And is it applicable for Indians? The model was not able to answer this. So let me ask it as a separate question. So that's what we call it as a hallucination. So even though I've changed the prompt, it has given me a wrong response. So it happens. And that's the good thing of this as a developer point of view, that you get to play around with this, and if it is not working, then we fine tune the model. Okay. So this is the system instruction that it was given, that you are a document classification assistant, and given document, your task is to classify the document. Okay. Let me see if it is able to change this. Okay, classify the document. So that's why it's again and again giving me as tax form. You are a assistant that understands how to parse documents. Answer me questions based on the following. Let's see if it makes any difference. Cool. So as soon as I've changed the system instructions, so earlier it had the task of classifying what kind of document it was. So it was just giving me the response as it's a tax form. But now it says part one of the form asks the taxpayer identification number. Let's validate if it is true. Yes, that's true. It is applicable for Indians if they are a resident alien, sole proprietor, or disregarded entity. I don't know if it is true or not. As far as I'm understanding from this, I don't know, but that's how it works. So, it has parsed this information. It has broken down all this info into several texts, and it has processed all those text, and then finally it gave the response. So it supports PDF as well. It supports videos as well. Since we are running out of time, I can't show you some example on videos, but yeah, you can just feel free to input any videos, or which is smaller in size. Okay, it should be, I think, less than 7 MB. You can also provide a YouTube video. So let me just give you a quick example, just to cover all sort of data inputs. So this was my favorite movie. I will always give this example. And okay, just put in this, that you own. Okay, so in that case, if you have a video that you have already published, then you can just give that as an input. Okay, and then it will go through all those videos and then answer questions based on that. So that's the thing that you can try out. Let me just try this. Okay, I had already uploaded few videos, so let's see if it works. Okay. What is this video about? Let me just clear this system instructions because it will then clash with this kind of input. So it's not about documents anymore. I'll just erase this. What is this video about? So just for information, this was a video about a summit held in 2022 at Ladakh, and uh, let's see. So it takes some time because it's a pretty huge video of 30 minutes. So what happens is, just like images, it breaks down the videos into several frames. As you know, videos are nothing but a pile of frames or a collection of frames. Model understand each of these frames and then tries to get information from what is being asked. So it's just a simple prompt in this case. But if you are, you know, interested in getting more details, like what happened exactly at this particular point of time, okay, so you can answer questions based on that as well. So just try to play around with the prompts. That is called as prompt engineering. So sometimes we tend to get wrong information from the model. So it's not always like magic happens. It's on us as well. So the better prompt that you provide, the more prone it is to, or the more likely it is to give the correct responses. So you can try all this stuff and then see. So meanwhile it generates the response for us. We'll just wait for some time. Okay. So meanwhile this happens, I'll move on. We'll come back to this. So we have covered all these details: Vertex AI, Collab, as well as AI Studio. I have a short activity for you. If you have, if you would like to know what are these image models, though, it's a quick fun activity. Just scan this QR code. Okay, all you have to do is scan this QR code on your phones. Then a link will open up. Go to that link. Try any prompt of your own choice. Okay, anything that you would like to give as a prompt. It need not be meaningful. Okay, just try to give any interesting prompts. Take a screenshot of the results that you get and post it on LinkedIn or Twitter with the following hashtags. Okay, just tag WTM Nagpur and me. So I would like to see the results that you have generated. So quick activity. I'll give you just a couple of minutes, and we can move on. So this is basically an example of the stable diffusion model. So since we are talking about LLMs, I also wanted to show you what these diffusion models were, or what these diffusion models are used for. Okay, so just like we provide a text or we provide an image and get a text as an output, diffusers are nothing but text to image kind of models. Okay, so it's used to generate synthetic images based on the prompt that you give. Okay, and we have the response from the model for the prompt that we had given. So this video is a vlog of a GD's trip to Ladakh for Google Developers India Community Summit. That's pretty correct. So you see, it can process videos as well. So that was my point to show this. It can support any kind of data that you give, so irrespective of what kind of data. It can just you know uh, process that information and give you the results. So instead of you going with different models or training different models, everything is available within this. So yeah, coming back to this, so diffusion models are nothing but used for synthetic image generation. And if you have any queries or questions, then feel free to reach out or ask. So that was one of the examples that I had tried. So when we talk about where these diffusion models are used, so there is this something called as image gen 3, as I was showing. This is the latest model from Google. Okay, so the kind of images that it generates is it's quite realistic. So if you are into content making, so mainly producers or people who are into movie making or film making, they are using this. Okay, many companies have already started using this model, okay, for generating advertisements and so on. So they no longer have to hire models like the actual models, human models. Okay, so they can just use this and everything is generated quite easily. So we can also use this diffusion models for that. So I hope you're done with this. We'll move on with the next section of this session. So let's go back to this, and this is Gemma now. Compared to Gemini, this is quite different because we don't have to use any API keys. Okay, it's a family of lightweight models, open models, as I said. And the research and technology which was used to build Gemini, it's the same used for Gemma as well. Okay, so the thing for Gemini was it was used for it was used as a subscription based models where they can earn something, but Gemma is completely open for developers. So you can play around with this, you can fine tune it, and it's quite free to use. So it is a text to text model, decoder only, large language model. And yeah, so this is the Gemma model family. So back in Feb 2024, they released the Gemma model, which is now called as Gemma 1. Okay, it was a lightweight model which was available in two different sizes, the 2 billion parameters and the 7 billion parameters. So when we say 2B and 7B, these are the number of parameters that the model was trained on. So 2B is a lighter weight and 7B is a bigger model. So after that, they came up with Gemma 2 recently. Gemma 2 was released, I think, in June, okay, a couple of months ago. So it's available in three different sizes again, 2B, 9B, and 27B. Larger the number of parameters, the more powerful it is. Okay, but it's not always necessary, but generally that's the case. So it was a better version of Gemma 1. Then they also came up with different variants like the recurrent Gemma, code Gemma. So recurrent Gemma is nothing but it leverages the recurrent neural networks. So if you don't have any idea about what RNNs are, you can just hit up on the internet and see what are RNNs. But just to give you a gist of what this is used for, so it was quite efficient. Okay, quite efficient in the memory, and it used to give faster responses as compared to the base models of Gemma, like Gemma 1, Gemma 2. Then they trained something called as code Gemma specifically for coding tasks, like if you want to generate codes. So it would give better results as compared to other Gemma models like Gemma 1, Gemma 2. So if you use code Gemma, then that was better for such use cases. Then they came up with Polygemma as well. So this was one of my favorite models, because if we just see the first four models, it used to support input only in the form of text, but Parlijama also supports text as well as images. Okay, so it's an open vision language model. So in cases where you have to use Gemini like images, but you don't have access to the Gemini models, then Parlijama is the way for you. So it can do image captioning, it can do visual question answering, it can do object detection as well, segmentation as well. So that's the beauty of this Parlijama model. It was based on the Pali 3 image encoder. Okay, Pali 3 is nothing but a vision model. Okay, not the language model, but the vision model. When we say vision language model, na, so vision means it supports images, and language is nothing but the text. So it's a combination of the Pali 3 vision model and the Gemma language model. Uh, so let's try out this model as well. I don't need any kind of API keys to use this. So we have two ways again. We can either use it on Vertex AI. If you have already having a GCP account, then you can just type in Vertex AI again. If not, there is an alternative to use this. So I hope you have heard about this platform called as Hugging Face. If not, then I would recommend you go ahead and create an account on this. Okay, So it's a platform for ML developers and ML community where you can freely access all the open models. Okay. So we have several versions of this Gemma model. Gemma 2 is the name of the model. 2B is the nothing but the size of the model, that is 2 billion parameters. IT is nothing but instruction tuned. So it's specifically tuned for instruction based tasks. So you can also fine tune it on your own data set. Okay. So you can just go ahead, log into your Hugging Face account, write in a prompt, write me a poem on TensorFlow, quite random example. So depending upon the number of users using this model right now, it will take some time to load the model and then give the responses. Another way is to use this on Vertex AI. Okay, so if you click on this, there's an option called as Open Notebook and Deploy. We don't have to click on any of these. So if you click on Deploy, what it will do is it will create a Vertex AI endpoint and it will deploy this model for you on a VM instance. So for that, we will be charged, and we don't want to go into that right now. So just skip this. If you want to try it out, just then select some options like the region where this model is already hosted. Okay, you can just keep it as is, the default options. So let me just choose this 27 billion parameter. Okay, so since someone else is using this right now, like many users are using, it's timed out. So let me try it here. Same prompt. That was quick. So this is what it has generated for me. I'm not interested in a poem on TensorFlow. Let me write something meaningful. So uh, how do we deal with overfitting in ML? Okay, so it will give you all the information, like you should have more data, try to augment your data set, and so on. So depending upon what you're looking for, just give in a prompt and then you will get the responses. So if I just change the model, let me just try one more thing. I'll keep the prompt as is, but I'll change the model. I'll just copy it for my reference. Let's see if it changes. So there's a difference now. This was the response from the Gemma 27 billion parameter that you see here in the notebook notepad file. This is from the 2 billion parameter. So it has given me a breakdown of the steps. First is to understand what is the problem, the symptoms, causes, and so on. Okay. So I think I'll have to increase the number of tokens. You see, this response looks incomplete because of the number of tokens. You can just go ahead and change the number of tokens to, I don't know, 256. Yeah, see, so the response length has increased accordingly. So tokens is nothing but the number of words. So the number of words that you just give as an input, that would be the number of tokens that you give as an input, the max tokens, that would be the number of words in the response. So you can just play around with these parameters and then see. So that's how we use Gemma models. Okay. As I said, there is another model called as Pali Gemma. I just wanted to show you an example. Uh, okay. So if you go and type in this Gemma cookbook on browser, so you'll see some examples with respect to Gemma as well as Pali Gemma. So this is the official cookbook from Google, where they have listed all the community works. So recently, me along with some folks, we built this Android application where you can play around with this model, okay, without needing to code. So it's available as an Android app. You can just feel free to explore this. So that was about this Gemini and Gemma. Let me just show you some examples built with this. So at the start of the year, we built something called as Pharma Scan. So it was nothing but an Android application, where you can just click a picture of the medicines that you have and get details like what is it, what is this medicine used for, what are the symptoms, the you know preferred dosage, and so on. So just a proof of concept that we built. Okay, it's available on my GitHub. You can just feel free to check. And yeah, just to show you like what things are possible with this. So if you are a student right now and would like to build projects around this, you can take this as a reference and get started. And by the way, this project was also featured on the official handle of the Google Developer Experts team. So it was quite an achievement for us because it was just the start of the Gemini models. They released this back in December, and then we created a project right away in Jan. So that was the thing. So if you have any great ideas, then go ahead and build it. So yeah, as I was talking about the Gemma models previously, so Gemma models are open models. So this was another project that we built. So this was basically used, as a on-device kind of example. So without you communicating with the outside world, the model itself was hosted on a smaller device like a mobile phone. So that was the overall pipeline. We trained the model, like we fine-tuned the model on a textbook of science subject, okay, for students. So let's say you are a student right now, you're preparing for exams. I don't know how many of you would agree with me, but many times when we search for some topics online, so we tend to get distracted, and we stop studying and then we use social media often. So that was the motive, like to eliminate all those kind of things. We just built a small application for students, okay, so where they don't need to go online and then search for questions or answers. They just have to type in a particular topic, okay, or a particular problem that they are facing, and the model would give the answer based on that. So this is completely offline. That was the beauty of this project, okay, not connecting to the internet in any way, and the model was hosted right on your mobile phone. So that these were the steps that we had implemented: preparation of the data right from tuning the model to our own use case, and then inferencing it and then deploying it. So this is available on GitHub again. So if you're planning to build something similar, go ahead and try it out. We have also crafted a medium blog, okay, a series of medium blogs in 3 steps. If you would like to know the process of how you can create your own custom data set. So as I said, this was for science textbook, but if you are interested in doing it something like for something else, go ahead and read the part one. Second step is how do you fine tune the original model, okay. So pick up the base model that Google has developed, fine tune it on your own data set. So the part two will teach you how do you do that yourself. And then part three is nothing but how do you deploy the fine tuned model on Android. So that was the thing that we came up with. And fortunately, or like we were fortunate enough to see this getting published on the cookbook as well. So last week this was featured here as well, so you can just find this example. Okay, yeah. And this was about Polygemma. Some examples that you can see on the screen. So it can also support object detection. So not only classification or getting text from the images, it can also support detection. So when we say detection or segmentation, it's basically a use case in computer vision where you detect where exactly the objects are present in the image by drawing a bounding box, okay, by getting the 4 coordinates. Segmentation is nothing but you segment or you highlight each pixel of that particular class, okay. So you see something is getting highlighted in this. So earlier, before this, we had to explicitly train the models on such use cases, and it was quite a complicated task. We use these models like computer vision models, like in my company there's a use case going on. So it has really helped me in that case. So if you're trying to build something similar, go ahead and try this out. Again, this is available in the cookbook for your reference. So that was pretty much about Gemini and Gemma. Some resources for you to get started if you're willing to learn this yourself right from scratch. These are the resources. You can go ahead and first try it out on AI Studio. So the most important thing is you have to learn how do you give good prompts. So unless you provide a good prompt, you won't get the responses as expected. Next is if you are into JavaScript or Python, then we have some SDKs available for you to get started. So just take this as a reference. If you'd like to use this on GCP, then you can just go ahead and check out some code examples provided by the official GitHub repo of GCP. And yeah, that's it. You can connect with me on these social media handles. If you have any queries or questions, then I'm open to take those questions right now.
Um, okay, so it was a great session. I think people will connect to you shortly and also post their questions if required. So moving towards the end of the session. Um,
Okay, I'll just put in the chat as well in case you need to refer to the links of the slides as well as the resources.
yes. So moving towards the end of the session. Thank you so much, Nitin sir, for sharing such a curated content with us. The history of LLMs and OCR, image classification, all the resources. Thank you so much. If anyone has any kind of doubts, they can post up on the chat or as well as they can connect to you. Feel free to connect. It was a pleasure to have you with us. And okay, I'll conclude the session now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anushka. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. So I hope you enjoyed and had some curiosity of learning what LLMs are. So if you have any queries or questions, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll be glad to answer your queries. But until then, take care and bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.